29 to 10 on 3AW, and it's Valentine's Day in a couple of days' time, Phil.
Yes, and we're talking to some of our favourite people about their first loves.
Indeed, and Frankie J. Holden's first out of the blocks.
Hi, Frankie. Yes, Frankie.
Good evening, boys. How are you all?
Now, Valentine's Day to you.
Well, thank you very much. I must admit that I was hoping for a Valentine's Day message, but probably not from either of you two blokes. Maybe from someone a little bit more feminine and attractive.
Yes, of course.
Yes.
Anyway, at my time of life, you take what you can get.
Now, tell us about your first love. What might have been at school, your first crush.
Well, it was actually, Phil. My first love was a girl called Sandra Haswell. Now, I was in high school at Cumberland High School in the northern suburbs of Sydney, and Sandra Haswell was that girl at school that all the boys were in love with. You know, she was the prize.
And almost untouchable.
Almost untouchable. Well, no, not the Sandra Haswell I knew, but anyway, that's another story. No, she was the one. Exactly, she was up on the pedestal, and I was in love with her for months and months and months, and then and something happened. We did Romeo and Juliet as a school play in year 11, and I was chosen to be Romeo, and Sandra Haswell was chosen to be Juliet, and we had to kiss on the stage. Now, can you imagine a year 11 boy having to kiss another girl in public, in particular when it was the love of my life at that time, Sandra Haswell.
Yes.
But I did kiss her on stage, and I was the school hero from that point on, and that proved to me it opened my eyes as to the power of being in show business for a start. But it also did it opened Sandra Haswell's heart to me, and we were very good friends for a number of months. And I still remember my father taking me to the year 11 formal that year, and we had to go and pick Sandra Haswell up, and we had a lovely evening. And the next morning, I knew what being in love meant, because I just had that feeling in my heart that I had to see Sandra again, and my day wouldn't be complete, and my life wouldn't be complete unless it was going forward with Sandra.
But as what happened a lot in those very early days when we were still just kids, you'd bound up to her the following day, "G'day, Sandra, how are you?" And she would turn her face and look the other way.
Yeah, well, within 3 weeks she was off with Ron Hooper.
Yeah, there you are. What's Sandra Haswell got to say for herself?
Well, I haven't heard from Sandra Haswell for many, many years. I'm likely to hear from her now that I'm doing this.
Well, on the next line, Sandra Haswell, say good evening.
Yeah, g'day, how are you, boys?
Yes. So did she let you down gently, or did it break your heart a bit, as it does with kids at that age?
It did break my heart, and it's very, very traumatic when it happens at such at that age.
Yes.
You're very emotional, and it's the first time you've put yourself out in the open, as it were, emotionally.
Yeah,
I still, all these years later, and I still remember her name, and I still remember the feeling that I had the next day after I'd taken her to the formal, and I still remember waking up and my first instance of being in love. But I'm very fortunate now, boys, because I wake up every morning with that feeling, with, of course, my current beautiful wife, Michelle.
Yes, of course. That's beautiful.
And where did you and she meet, Frankie?
Well, Michelle and I actually, we met on the set of a country practice many, many years ago. Michelle she played Nurse Kate Bryant in a country practice, your listeners may remember, and I did a little guest role on there, and we just met there on the set. But then nothing, we went our separate ways for years and years and years, and then we met again at the Crown Casino. What a wonderful romantic meeting that was. We were both doing a corporate event there, and from that we exchanged phone numbers and kept up a relationship over the phone. Now that's romantic, and it's not very common for men to maintain a phone relationship.
No,
it's different for women. They're born with the phone surgically attached to their left ear.
Yeah.
But men don't necessarily like talking on the phone. But that was the start of Michelle and my relationship, was over the phone, because she was living in Sydney and I was living in Melbourne. And it was long talks on the phone into late into the night, and that was sort of how we fell in love like that. We had a long-distance relationship.
What are the lovely things you can do? Are there favourite restaurants or songs or holidays you've been on together and they stand out as a great memory maker for you?
Absolutely. Well, we've been very fortunate. In fact, we were just sitting, before you guys rang, we were sitting and watching a movie, and the movie's called Another Year. It's an English film, and it's a Mike Lee film, so it's just about ordinary English people living their lives through a year. And we did look at each other and say to each other how lucky we are and what a great life we have because we've got each other.
That's beautiful.
And I think that's a beautiful way to go into Valentine's Day.
Yes, it is.
And I still haven't got her a present. But anyway, I'll get around to that tomorrow. But I think these days are very important. And, some people say that these things are just commercially driven. And to a certain extent, I suppose, there's an element of truth in that. But I think it's very important to have at least one day a year where you do acknowledge the fact that if you've got love in your life, then your life is enriched.
Yes.
And where would we be without it?
Exactly. Frankie, how are those beautiful daughters of yours, who were only, I think 10 or 12 the last time I saw them with you?
Well, mate, I've got news there. Olivia, my eldest, is now 28, and she was married, very appropriate, she was married on the 26th of November.
Yes.
She got married in South Africa to a young Zulu boy, as a matter of fact.
Beautiful.
So, absolutely, we went over for the wedding, and that was sensational. And then my next eldest girl, Eliza, has just announced her engagement.
Oh, how marvellous.
To a lovely young man from the Mornington Peninsula.
Right.
And Matilda, who's 22, is living with a young man, and they're very happy in Melbourne. And Georgia is 9, and we're just about to go into a prenup negotiation with Kynan Baker, who's one of our good friends here, and he and Georgia have decided they want to get married. So I've said to her...
She's only 9, though.
Yeah, but I've said, that's okay, but we must have a prenup.
I love it.
Well, that's really beautiful. Your life sounds very, very at peace and quite lovely.
Yeah, I'm very, very happy up here. I'm still living on the far south coast of New South Wales. And still running the caravan park at Tartar and having a great time and still doing quite a bit of show business. So I'm very, very happy, boys.
Good lad.
We always enjoy talking to you, Frankie.
Well, lovely talking to you, Frankie. Happy Valentine's Day and the rest of the year for you and the girls and your loved one. Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Bruce and Phil, and the most romantic couple of days I could wish you, boys.
Thank you so much. Frankie J. Holden.